Joining me now with more reaction from the activist group Justice Seekers Texas, we have Reverend Ronald Wright and Fox News contributor David Webb. David, you're sitting here. Whose side do you agree with here?
Well, first of all, everybody's trying to get to a conclusion, including the lawyer. We don't have all the facts. We don't have the witness statements. We don't know what was said by the kids to the cop, if anything was said. And as I've said earlier on TV, we need to look at what was going on in the whole situation. Over 100 kids, drugs, not gang activity, but kind of a rough crowd.
Well, a DJ tweeted out, come to the party, pay 15
Adam
bucks.
Crosby was tweeting out before this. By the way, they were violating the community rules. The community rule said pool party, 20 people. This was a lot more than 20.
Right.
So maybe they should answer those questions.
According to the witnesses, apparently the kids were not, the kids that were causing the trouble, not all the kids, a small percentage of them, were not listening to the cops and causing a big problem.
You know, whether you like what a cop says to you or not, if they give you a lawful order, you're supposed to obey
What
it.
about these two guys that come up behind the cop as he's doing his job? Because this is the issue in contention here. These two guys come up right behind the cop. He sees them, and he doesn't know what threat exists or doesn't exist. I think in that case, because it's so volatile, he felt threatened, and I understand why he felt threatened.
Yeah, and this is the thing. I'm not drawing a conclusion whether he acted inappropriately or not.
Right
but
there, those two guys are kind of mocking him, provoking him. Now, maybe he didn't need to pull out his gun. Maybe a stun gun would have been better, but there certainly was a threat to him.
But he doesn't know at that time whether there's a threat or not, but he knows there are two people that are they're in motion behind him. He's trying to collar what he considers someone and put him down.
Let me bring in the Reverend. Reverend, I want to get your take on this, sir.
Well, it could have all been handled differently, despite of what a lot of opinions are being said, and your opinion is being said of this situation. This all could have been handled differently. We're going to look at the 911 call and see what was initially the call brought in as to why the officer immediately jumped out of his car. I spoke with the young man who videoed the tape the night of the incident. We spoke with him, and he gave me his opinion on what he thought took place. And of course, you know, he's a little young white kid, and he felt like that this was all done based on race. Now, we know that the officer could have handled this a lot differently.
I had a guy on last night that said it was not about race. There was another guy quoted in the newspaper said it was not about race. David, you wanted to weigh in. Go ahead.
I'm sick of the instant race narrative the minute black kids are involved. You had a large group of mixed race, but mostly black. If you have a bunch of them committing some kind of activity, chances are it's black kids that are doing it. In this case, it was. The white kid who videoed it doesn't matter. The actions of the kids matter.
All right.
We've got to stop going to this instant race narrative.
All right, I got to wrap. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
From what I was told.
Yes, really quick, Reverend.
And so why weren't they addressed?
You wanted to add one thing? Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I was told that from the young man that videoed that the white kids were a part of what took place and they were never addressed.
That young man,
it's amazing how we always want to talk about. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Let's talk about the elephant in the room and not other things. It's amazing when it comes to African American and black kids, we come up with all kind of excuses instead of addressing the issue.
Okay, hang on a second, Reverend. So let me ask you a question.
And he could have done it.
Reverend, what kind of ISIS-like attack would you like to see on cops? Would you like to see car bombings? Would you like to see shootings in malls? Would you like to see multiple rapes of a woman cop? Well, you were the one who called for ISIS-like attacks. You're the one pushing this narrative. You're part of the problem.
I'm not saying we don't support the police.
You said it on MSNBC.
But the problem is you guys want to talk about everything, but what is in existence? You want to talk about domestic violence. You want to talk about child abuse, but you don't want to talk about racism.
All right,
that's your opinion. Your opinion is just like what everybody else says.
Your words, I'm asking you, what type of ISIS-type attack would you like to see on cops?
I said we support the police department. I said we support the police department.
All right, we got to leave it.
As a matter of fact,
I just leave it there. I want to go back to what you said and what David was challenging you on, Reverend, that you said we're setting the stage for a terrorist attack in this country, and the group is not going to be ISIS. It's going to be USIS, us against these unjust law officers and people who continue to allow racism to grow into this city. You're making a comparison with police officers in America with ISIS and talking about attacking police officers, just vigilante justice if you deem that they're not behaving the way you desire? Is that what you're saying? You want an
Sean, it's
open
not-
warfare
it's
against cops?
No, and I said it again before you cut me off. We support the police department. We need the police department.
But address
it's
that
not
statement.
the entire police
You said
department.
that.
But I know what I said, but listen to me. It's the people that are working for the police department. Black people
Well, that
are
would be
being
cops.
tired of being abused by police officers and people doing discriminating things. Your gentleman a while ago said something about black kids are doing this and black kids are doing that. But black kids don't run in elementary schools shooting up kids. They don't run into theaters shooting up kids.
No, hold it.
All we're
First of
asking is
all,
that we
why
be
don't-
treated. All we ask is that we be treated like anybody. Here's what my point was the terrorist thing. It's
Reverend,
amazing that it takes something like 9/11 for
Reverend,
us to come
my-
together as
Reverend.
a
You're
United States.
dodging, Reverend. You're dodging and you're dancing, and it's not going to work
I'm
here.
dodging what? What am I dodging?
What you did was you threw out
I
an
said black folk are getting
No.
tired of being abused.
You know what? Anybody
are.
who gets abused, black, white, or otherwise, would get tired of it. So take that off the table. That's a reality. However, what you do is you throw something incendiary out on another network so you can gin up the base. Then you get the rest of the people to come in and do this. You don't want to address the issues. If you did, you wouldn't say something like that.
The issue is black
number
people
two,
are
I have
tired
been
of
in
being
plenty of these
abused
riots,
in this country.
and I've been in plenty of
The
these
issue is
parties,
we are being
and I've
tired
been
of
in
being
plenty of these
abused in this
events.
country.
And this is
That's
not
the issue.
way
Right.
you're selling it.
Let-
Reverend, most interactions between police, black, white, or otherwise in this country on a daily basis are lawful, are carried out in some way without this kind of incident. This is not the narrative that fits the rest of the country.
All right, Reverend, let me ask you a question. Are you talking about Ferguson? Is that what specifically are you talking about?
Not just Ferguson, sir. There have been several police shootings here in Dallas.
Give me a few
This
other.
is not the first
okay.
time.
But
We've
Ferguson,
had
wait a minute.
several.
Let's go to
Tobias
Ferguson for a
Mackey.
second. Ferguson was
Tobias
about
Mackey,
Ferguson
for a
was
prime
about a
example.
young man that robbed a store, intimidated a clerk, fought a cop for his gun, according to multiple eyewitnesses, and charged at an officer, and the eyewitnesses cleared the officer. And if we look at black-on-black murder in this country in cities like Chicago, the president never talks about that. He talks about he talks
you
about
might make a
Michael
valid
Brown.
point,
He
but
talks
that's
about
not what-
Trayvon Martin. Why doesn't he talk about?
Well, here's my thing. I'm not going to talk about Trayvon Martin. I'm going to talk about Tobias Mackey and several of the young men that have been here in Dallas that didn't commit those crimes that were gunned down by police officers. I'm not saying all police officers are bad, and it's not the blue, it's the certain
You're
white
basically
and the blue.
calling
Someone asked me.
you're calling for a terror attack almost when you say USIS,
I'm not
and that there's
calling
going to be
for
an
it.
attack.
You're
Read your statement.
using
I'm not
incendiary
calling
language.
for it.
These are your words.
I'm not calling for it. The
So
police
why are you
departments
using the
that
language?
don't manage their officers are calling for it.
No, look, this is what happens, Sean, is we never get into some parts of the important discussion here. Teenagers, if there's drug use and underage drinking, why was that
teenagers
happening
were
there?
wrong.
If all of this was going on, as witnesses and neighborhood residents have said, why is that not being discussed? Instead, we're sitting
Okay,
here
let's
talking
discuss
about
that.
an irresponsible statement by a man who claims the title of reverend, that he wants to throw incendiary language into it. Police officers have a tough job. Citizens have a tough job. But if they don't work together, we're never going to have a safe environment.
We got to end it
both.
here.
And
We're
that's
just
my
out of time.
point.
Pastor, we'll have you
just
back,
made a
I
very
promise.
valid point. You made a very valid
All right,
point.
we
Are
end on a
black
point
kids
of
perfect?
agreement.
No. Are
Coming
white
up.
kids perfect? No. Are